Welcome to Friends and Fiction. 4 New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories. Novelists Mary Kay Andrews, Kristin Harmel, Kristy Woodson Harvey, and Patti Callahan Henry are 4 longtime friends with more than 70 published books between them. Together, they host Friends and Fiction, with author interviews and fascinating insider talk about publishing and writing, to highlight and support independent bookstores. They discuss the books they've written, the books they're reading now, and the art of storytelling. If you love books and you're curious about the writing world, you're in the right place.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Friends and Fiction. I'm Kristy Woodson Harvey.
I am Patti Callahan Henry.
I'm Mary Kay Andrews, not Burl Ives.
I'm Kristin Harmel.
This is Friends and Fiction, 4 New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories to support indie bookstores, authors, and librarians. On this episode, we are thrilled to welcome Hazel Gaynor and Heather Webb to discuss their new novel, Christmas with the Queen. The book was released on October 22nd, and we are so excited to speak to Hazel and Heather about it.
Okay, but first, I want to talk about our 2025 book subscription box, which is available through our friends at Oxford Exchange. This box is so much fun because for all one-in price, you get 3 separate shipments, all right? The first one in March with my new book, in May with Kristy's new book, Beach House Rules, and in June with Kristin's book, The Stolen Life of Colette Marceau. Plus, you'll get exclusive gifts, a Friend and Fiction friendship bracelet, which I meant to wear tonight to do show and tell because it's so cute and it's blue like our colors, and a car magnet, and they are only available in this bundle. So head on over to Oxford Exchange's website right now to get yours.
Mm-hmm. And remember to check out all the other fun things going on in our Friends and Fiction community at friendsandfiction.com. There you'll find our info about our upcoming events, our incredible show schedule, and links to our bookshop.org page, to the award-winning Friends and Fiction official book club with Brenda and Lisa, to our merch store, and to our newsletter sign up. In other words, if you want to know anything about what's going on in the Friends and Fiction universe, visit friendsandfiction.com.
Mary Kay, you were being such a trooper tonight.
I know. I'm like,
and we had our Zoom for our subscribers before this.
Oh, look at that MKA with the sexy voice.
Not on purpose, believe me.
I want to bring you a cup of tea with lemon and honey.
I know.
Or
all right. It would take me a couple hours.
Well, a bourbon. I would, but yeah.
But we all know how that went.
A hot toddy when this is all over.
We know what happened to your bourbon.
Oh my God, my bourbon exploded. All right. So speaking of our newsletter, it is called Friends and Fiction Endless Stories, and it's hosted on the Substack platform. So you can join us there for free and receive our free weekly newsletter, or you can upgrade to the paid level for a measly $5 a month to get all sorts of incredible bonus content, including extended Q&As with our weekly show guests, bonus screen room footage, and we just taped a really fun one with Hazel and Heather, monthly roundtable discussions among the 4 of us and our author friends, and occasional live Ask Me Anything private Zoom parties with the 4 of us. In fact, we just did one tonight before the show, so it was so much fun. So if you enjoy tuning in for our weekly interviews, this is a big way in which you can support us. So check us out at friendsandfiction.substack.com, or you can also link from our website, friendsandfiction.com.
All right. So we're really excited to talk to Hazel and Heather, but I want to take a quick moment because this week, the week before Christmas, we announced my book tour for 2025. And it all starts, I know, I'm so excited. It all starts exactly a month from today or yesterday. And I will be on the road for more than a month with over 32 stops. And I know you cannot read that graphic, but just go to my website. And I really hope to see so many of you on my travels from here to California to the Midwest to talk about the story she left behind. But for our community, this has been in the works for a while and I'm thrilled. So put this on your calendar. You ready? St. Patrick's Day, Monday, March 17th in Atlanta, Georgia is our Friends and Fiction live event. So all 4 of us will be there. Meg and Ron and Lisa and Brenda. It is going to be a monstrous, fun St. Patrick's Day, the story she left behind party. So mark down the date. If you go to my website or Atlanta History Center, tickets are already on sale and you'll hear more about this in the new year. So thanks, y'all.
This must have been subconscious, but I just bought the best outfit for that.
For the St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of it, but it's going to be great. Now I'm super excited. Now I know where I'm going to wear that.
Is it a green onesie?
Yeah, I was going to say, does it have a beaver tail?
Does it have a beaver tail and hat? I mean, I don't want to say, I think it's the opposite of that.
So knowing us, it's probably the same green dress I brought, but whatever.
It's a jumpsuit. It's a jumpsuit. So
I don't wear jumpsuits.
Okay, so we're good.
Okay.
Someone will have to actually go to the bathroom with me.
I was going to say that's why.
Yeah, normally I can get myself in and out, but I cannot get myself in and out of this. Okay, is that what y'all came here to hear about tonight? All right, so small announcement for me. I know a lot of you have seen it online already, but I haven't officially revealed the cover of my May 27th, 2025 novel, Beach House Rules, on the show yet. So I wanted to just show you the cover here and tell you about it super briefly. Some of you might have heard me talk about it a little bit already, but last summer I kept reading all these articles and seeing on TV all these things about mommunes, which are basically mom communes. And I was so interested by them. And one day I thought, what would it be like to live in a mommune? But more important, what would people in a small Southern town say about the women that lived inside a mommune? I thought that was really interesting. And so that's how the idea of Beach House Rules was kind of born. So it's about a woman named Charlotte whose husband is accused of a white collar crime, who suddenly finds herself with nowhere to go and thrust into the spotlight of Juniper Shore's Socialite, which now has its own Instagram account. Someone on here recommended that, and Juniper Shore's Socialite is real now. But it is a snarky anonymous Instagram account that comments on all of the women in this house and the children and what they're doing and all of their gossip. And essentially the women think everything's hunky-dory, and then they come to realize that they have a connection that they were not aware of, and they start to wonder whether the fact that they've all found themselves under the same roof is actually a coincidence at all. So that's Beach House Rules. It's a super fun book. I think it was really fun to write. I hope it's fun to read, and I hope you'll check it out on May 27th. I might mention it between now and then.
I was going to say, we might talk about it
once or
before
twice.
then.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're also so excited to reveal the guest lineup for our Winter 25 season. Don't you guys want to know who all we'll be having on in January and February and March? Well, I'm sorry, but you're just going to have to stick around until the end of tonight's show. We'll announce it right after tonight's interview with Hazel and Heather. So do not dip out early tonight, and don't touch that dial.
And I'm considering, I think we should have you read all of them in that super sexy voice of yours, and then everybody will show up. They'll be like, this is very like.
Oh, I was planning on doing my Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Burl Ives situation.
Okay, now finally, the moment you've been waiting for, the main event. We're getting ready to welcome our friends Hazel Gaynor and Heather Webb. So let's introduce them.
Yeah, Hazel is an award-winning New York Times and USA Today bestselling author, known for her deeply moving historical novels, which explore the defining events of the 20th century. She's a recipient of the 2015 RNA Historical Novel of the Year Award. Her work has since been shortlisted for multiple awards in the UK and Ireland.
Hazel's latest novel, The Last Lifeboat, was a Times of London Historical Novel of the Month, shortlisted for the 2023 Irish Book Award, and a recipient of the 2024 Audie Award for Best Fiction Narrator. Plus, it was an amazing book. I loved it. Hazel's work has been translated into 20 languages and is published in 27 territories to date. She lives in Ireland with her family.
And she's staying up late for us.
She is.
So it's late. Like midnight in Ireland. It's not like midnight. Well, it is midnight in Ireland. Sweet girl. Heather Webb, we adore, is the award-winning and USA Today best-selling author of 10 historical novels, including her most recent, The Next Ship Home, Queens of London, and Strangers in the Night. Or just give you only one guess what that's about. To date, her books have been translated in 18 languages. She lives in Connecticut with her family and 2 mischievous cats.
The books Hazel and Heather have written together have all been published to critical acclaim and have been shortlisted for several international awards. Their new co-written novel, Christmas with the Queen, was released on October 22nd. Sean, let's bring Hazel and Heather on, please.
I'm still awake.
You're still awake. I know we've been a little nervous. I'll try to keep it going for you. Well, Hazel and Heather, welcome to the Friends in Fiction Show. We are so happy to have you. And I just adored this beautiful novel, billed as The Crown Meets When Harry Met Sally. Who wouldn't want to read that? I mean, like, I'm in. 100%. So this novel surrounds a young Queen Elizabeth stepping onto the throne and trying to balance the tradition of her role with the changing nature of Britain. Olive, an aspiring BBC reporter, and Jack, a recently widowed cook in the royal kitchens, cross paths at Sandringham estate just as Queen Elizabeth arrives and the staff is preparing for Christmas. And we come to realize that they just so happen to have a history and maybe a secret. So that's a little bit about what this book is about. Can you tell us a little more? And then can you tell us what it's really about?
Ooh, Heather?
Put me on the spot first. Yes. Well, it is
Hazel's going to have a nap.
7 o'clock here. So, yeah. So, Hazel and I were talking a lot about working on another Christmas novel, and the Queen. While we were working on this, actually, the Queen passed away, which was a huge. Of course, it was a loss, but it was a really beautiful way for us to get all this great information and watch all these reels and all this material about her life and honoring her life. And we knew we had chosen well. So the book is definitely sort of a memento to the Queen as a young woman in the early 50s when she first steps into the role. But it is also about 2 friends who cross paths 7 years later in the kitchens at Sandringham and at Buckingham Palace. And they with their shared past, there's a secret, as we said in the write-up. But it's about second chances, and it's about the magic of Christmas, of course, and it's about growing into a role as a young woman, both from the Queen's perspective and Olive's, who is our aspiring BBC reporter. And then Jack as well, who wants to be this chef that owns his own restaurant, and he's sort of fumbling, trying to find his way after a recent sudden loss. So that's what the book is about. So it's very Christmassy and lovely and upbeat, but there's some undercurrents of what it was like to be a young woman in the 50s and a person with a dream, so.
Yeah. There are a lot of layers for sure in this one. And I just wanted to remind everybody before we move on, we are live tonight. So if you have any questions for Heather and Hazel, drop them in the chat, because hopefully we'll have time for some live questions in just a bit.
Beautifully pitched, Heather. That's why I delegated that to you, because you just do it so well.
I kind of started like, oh wait, what is the book about? Oh yeah, okay.
Delegation is really what it's about, Hazel. Well done.
Teamwork.
Oh, well, then I'm shooting this one straight at you.
Okay,
Hazel.
yeah.
So, okay, ready? So it's coming right at you. So get your espresso. So Christmas with the Queen unfolds over 5 Christmases, which is a big undertaking. So what made you land on 5 Christmases? And did that make the research any more complicated, or did it actually help to span it out over those years of the 50s?
Yeah, that's a great question. Really, the reason we span over 5 Christmases is because of the starting point of this book, which is the Christmas Day broadcast, which is given by, was the Queen, but now the King, the reigning monarch in Britain on Christmas Day. And when Heather and I started talking about writing another Christmas novel together, we settled on this period of history for lots of reasons. It was a fascinating period of history, post-World War II, early 1950s. and that this young queen suddenly found herself on the throne unexpectedly because her father had taken over from his brother who had abdicated. So she was never supposed to be queen. And we just found that a fascinating in for this Christmas set story and the tradition, not only of the royal family, who, you know, have obviously very strong traditions of every Christmas going to Sandringham Estate and the royal message, but for families like mine growing up in England, that your Christmas day sort of paused at 3 o'clock when the Queen spoke, and everybody went into the sitting room, gathered around the TV. And Christmas dinner, Christmas lunch was therefore very early because you had to have eaten before 3 o'clock so you could sit and watch the Queen's speech. So obviously in 1952, the Queen spoke through the wireless. So we took that as the starting point, and then we go through to 1957, which is when the Queen did her first televised Christmas broadcast.
And that's a nice bookend. Nice bookend. Yeah.
So that was a whole new departure for the royal family to sort of bring the Queen right up front into people's sitting rooms. So they felt they wanted to connect more with the public. So that was why it was the 5 years. Research-wise, it definitely caused us some logistical problems.
Okay. I was curious. Yeah.
A lot of those. We had a lot of those.
Yeah, and especially when you're playing out a love story through those years, it can sometimes cause a few issues, but we feel that it worked, and it's just right for this story and how this love story between Jack and Olive, but also between the young Queen and Philip, these two young newlyweds. So the pacing of it just felt right, and we meet those beats every Christmas. It's a true Christmas set story. So that's why we did the 5 years.
Oh, I'm already in the Christmas mood now. I was kind of being a grouch. Now I'm a Christmas mood.
Job done.
I think one of the things that's really cool about that, though, is how many Christmas novels do you read where you actually get 5 chances at Christmas in the novel? You know what I mean? Like that's it is a lot of Christmas in a very good way. I think it's the perfect book to read this month to get you in the spirit. So I'm wondering a little bit, since we just talked a little bit about whether the research was difficult bringing to life these 5 Christmases, I'm wondering how you bring the reader into Sandringham Estate at Christmas time. So how did you go about bringing that time and place to life in such vivid detail? I mean, it felt not only like we were there, but it felt so deeply researched, and it just came alive on the page. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is, of course, as a historical novelist, we go deep, don't we? We look for pictures. And I mean, I think a lot of novelists do. You don't even have to be a historical novelist. You want to get things right. So, the photos, of course, and all the books and whatnot. But at one point, I said to Hazel, I'm always looking for a reason to come across the pond. I'd love to do a research trip. Why don't we go to Sandringham? And we had this very narrow window when we could meet. And we managed to get under the wire. We were the last tour allowed, actually, before they closed it. So I flew over to London, and we took the train out to Norfolk, which is a couple of hours east on the coast of London. And we ended up on the estate, and we toured the estate and went through the grounds and the house. And it's this
we were allowed. I was just going to say, it sounds like we just ended up on the estate by accident.
That's funny.
Yeah, but we did we did the tour in person. Took tons of pictures. Harassed the docents. I mean, he was trying to kind of swiftly guide us through the house, and I mean, we're like, wait. So when was the kitchen renovated? And was it on the east side of the house? And how many people were coming in and out of this room? And where do the guests stay? And like, just so many questions. And finally, the guy was getting annoyed, and we just said, we're working on a book. And he said, okay. And then he slowed down, and then he gave us more information and stuff. But we had a great time walking the grounds, and even sitting on the bench that we pictured Philip and Elizabeth sitting on it, overlooking the pond with this big giant weeping willow, and we did the whole 9 yards. Plus,
I'm feeling so melancholy.
Yeah. It was a really fun and beautiful tour. And I'm so glad we went, because Hazel and I, we talked about this. We pictured it a certain way, even through the photos. And then we got there and walked inside. And Hazel, I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, it's very different. Sandringham Estate is in the countryside, so it's not in the city. It's a very different vibe to Buckingham Palace or Windsor Castle or Balmoral. It's classic British stately home. So, we're not talking small, but it's not as austere or as cold, or as formal as the palace is. And it's the royal family's choice to go there for Christmas, because they really, really do live there for a lot of the winter season, if you like. So that's why the tour closes at the end of October, because then the house is getting ready for the royal family's arrival. And you walk in and it's very much like the Queen has just left the room. So they were saying, this is where she sits. She does a jigsaw puzzle as soon as she arrives. And this is where they sit and have their supper on Christmas Eve. So you really are inhabiting the rooms that they will shortly be inhabiting. And it's a real lived-in house. So it does have a very different feel, sort of cozy and a lot smaller than, some of the bigger palaces. So the scenes where we have Jack and Olive sort of bump into each other, and Jack bumping into Prince Philip and Olive bumping into the Queen, are very, very authentic, because it really is the type of place where you would turn a corner and there's the Queen in the library looking for a book. So it really helped us think we'd been very clever. We'd written the book, perfectly for the venue that is where the royal family go for Christmas. So it was just fascinating. And of course, we had to end it all with a champagne afternoon tea to find out what that was all about as well. So very grueling, difficult day. We struggled through.
The things we must do for our art. I know.
Suffering.
Exactly. You mentioned earlier that you were writing this book at the time of Queen Elizabeth's passing. How did that factor into crafting her character, and what was it like trying to capture her voice for this novel at a time that we were sort of in mourning for her?
I think we should both weigh in, because it's very different for me as an American as opposed to Hazel, which I was stunned. And, we grew up with her. So not in the same way at all that Hazel did, but still very much a figurehead that we look to and we're just used to seeing and hearing about and respect, and being someone who loves learning about royals. It was such a shock. So it made the experience of going into her voice quite profound, but I think it was still, Hazel, you've got a whole other level for Hazel, I think.
Yeah. And I think, we started this book when the Queen was celebrating her Platinum Jubilee. So she was becoming the longest serving monarch, surpassing Queen Victoria. So there was lots of historic pageantry, and London does that so well. So there'd been lots of celebration about the Queen's reign when we started writing the book. So that had a very different sort of feel publicly. And then, the tragic news of her death. And as Heather said, added a real poignancy because of a lot of the reflective pieces that came out after her death, and people speaking very candidly about her. We've got to see footage of her that had never been shown before. And I think a lot of that showed the warm side of the Queen, the mother, the grandmother, the young wife, and the humor. She had a, wicked sense of humor, loved her animals, loved her dogs and her horses. And that warmer side definitely came through. But I was devastated. I was actually surprised at how emotional I was following the events of the funeral and, that sort of reflective time. So I think it certainly lent, a real depth and heart to the woman that we were already writing, but some of that poignancy that perhaps we wouldn't have felt so much if we hadn't seen those pieces that came out afterwards. So it was just a fascinating, we were living through history, writing history. It was amazing.
Yeah. What a great answer. Yeah.
I think anytime we have writing partners on the show, our members are fascinated with how do you do that? And
I am also,
so are we.
We are also
So are we.
Yeah, Susan Schwartz Seligman wants to know if you all will explain your process. How do you do the research together, the writing, the character development, and then someone else? Let me see who that is. Had a similar question. Lizette House.
Yeah.
Does your writing process change from book to book, and from working together and working on your own?
Well, we fight a lot. I mean,
we do too, and we're not even writing a book together.
You seem like you must.
It's a struggle,
Yeah, people always ask us that, which is so funny, which is why I had to say that and make Hazel laugh. Yeah, no, we amazingly, it could have gone very, very badly. We just kind of came to our first book, Last Christmas in Paris, through other circumstances, and started, working on that together after working on an anthology together and having a good time. And because it was letters, I think it was a very organic process. And so we got to know each other through that. And then when we decided, okay, what's the opposite of Christmas at War? Oh, Grace Kelly's royal wedding on the French Riviera. Let's do that. So that was our next book. It was totally different, but we each took a character to start with for the drafting, the first draft. And then we edit every single page together, but there's a lot of communication. I mean, you just have to, and that's kind of been the same process for the last three. So we just, we communicate a lot, and we joke about this sort of unibrain that happens. I mean, you four must have it to some degree.
Oh yeah.
You do. When you know somebody well, you just, you get to, and I hang around Hazel for a few days and I start saying the things that she says that Americans are like, what are you saying? That's not a phrase.
I was thinking when that
thing.
said Sandringham. I was like, however Hazel says that will sound so much better.
So much better. Yeah. It's the same for Hazel. She'll once in a while pick up something I say and it makes me laugh. I'm like, oh, yeah, I think you just get to know each other well. And we have learned to, when we get stuck on a plot point or, we're having different viewpoints about a character, we just get on the phone and we talk about it. And I think there's so much trust between us too, that she's a wonderful writer. I know this. So if she's having a really strong reaction about something, I'm completely okay with, okay, well, let's look at that and why this isn't working or whatever.
Do you split up parts? Is that what you do? Like you write this part, I'll write that part?
Not really, no. Well, we initially write the first draft. We tend to create a voice each, if you like, a character each. But then there are always interconnecting characters, like in Christmas with the Queen Elizabeth. I think we both desperately wanted to have a go at writing her. But we initially, just from a practical point of view, we have to get the story down. So we'll take a character each, see how that's feeling. If we feel the voices are right, are they complementing each other? And it gives that distinction to each character as well. And then we get right into the page, and we literally touch every word of every page together. So it's a true collaboration. It's not you write that bit, I'll write that bit, and then you edit that bit and I'll edit this bit. We literally go forensic into every single page. And the biggest compliment we can ever have, and I've been blessed to have a lot, is that the books never feel like they're written by more than one person. And that's what we're hoping for, that this is a totally seamless.
It is.
Reading.
I have no idea who wrote which part.
Now let me ask a technical question. Are you all doing this together in like a Google Hangout or Docs? Are you Zooming?
Exactly. Yeah. Google Docs. Yeah. Which, for our first book, it was so clunky. Google Docs hadn't really caught up to some of the other software. So we'd get 50, 60 pages in, and we had so many comment bubbles and so many, strikeouts and stuff that it would take 30 minutes to load. And then it would search, and we were like, remember that?
Yeah, it was awful.
It was so bad. And it's actually, they've caught up to speed, and it works really well now. But initially it was a struggle.
So does it take you longer than writing a solo novel, or is it about the same or less?
I think it's about the same. I mean, the sort of the process of research and, drafting, and then we get on the phone to work our way out of plot issues and all of that good stuff. And then, so the process, it kind of maps the process of writing in a singular way yourself. And it's just, I think the main thing, how and why does this work? There's just a huge amount of trust. There is no ego. So, you've got to, whatever serves the story. And if I've written something that Heather feels isn't working, it's like the classic, kill your darlings. We all do it anyway. But you've got to let somebody else tell you that through the editing process. So you've just got to be prepared earlier in the process to make big decisions, to make the book work. Whether it was your piece or Heather's piece, doesn't matter. It's just what works. And we write quite differently, separately. So I think the other question was, does it work differently when we get back to our own work? Heather's much more of a plotter than me. I'm a complete pantser. And that complements each other when we're working together. But then I think we just naturally deviate back to, but I've definitely picked up, I wouldn't say I'm a plotter, but I picked up bits working on me, bits of plotting from Heather. And, I hear her on my shoulder going, Hazel, it's very pretty writing, but something has to happen.
Oh, that's so cute.
And I've picked stuff up from her too. I mean, Hazel's so adept at writing emotional scenes. And so I've picked up some of that, and tried to channel it into my own work as well. So
what a beautiful partnership.
Yeah.
Thank you. We love each other. That helps.
That's awesome.
Look, that was a terrible hand part. That was the worst hand part ever anyone has ever done.
I've never been able to
12:30
do
in the
it,
morning,
but-
Hazel. It's okay.
Thank you.
I'm not good at them, and I should be.
No, I'm awful at them
Major
too. Yeah, it doesn't work.
I always have these weird spiders coming out from them. Okay, onward. Okay, so I love that idea that Elizabeth Gilbert has about in Big Magic, that ideas are floating around there and they visit you and they whisper in your ear. And if you ignore them, it'll go to somebody else until they catch it. Hazel, this is the second time we've hit on the same moment in history without one time talking about it. So the first time was Operation Pied Piper in The Last Lifeboat and The Secret Book of Flora Lee. And now this, both Christmas the Queen and my new book, The Story She Left Behind, are set in small part during the Great Smog of London in 1952.
Oh,
I know. My character gets caught. Clara and her daughter, Winnie, get caught in the Great Smog of 1952. And it's a metaphor but I love those moments of synchronicity. You'd think we had a live wire between us. So they are very different stories from there, but it's a moment in history that sets both of us up for what's to come. So how did you, I know now why you chose 1952, because that was her first radio broadcast, but why did you decide to include that? And do you believe in this idea that story ideas kind of bop around like that?
100%. And I'm living proof of the whole idea, idea that is, that if you, I think you have to be very open to idea, but you also have to know if an idea is visiting you at the right time.
Yes.
And I have a great story for another time about an idea coming back to you many, many years later.
That's how you do. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So I think for us, we'd already settled on this was all going to hinge around the Christmas Day broadcasts. And the first that the Queen gave was 1952. So then, of course, you start researching, okay, what was happening in London? We were still post-war, rationing was still in place. There was lots of history still for us to dig into.
Churchill was back in power, like he'd won again after losing. Yeah. Now he's back. Yeah.
And this figure just keeps coming back. And then we connected this, the Great Fog had happened in that December, right when the Queen was preparing to give her first Christmas speech and to host the family for the first Christmas. Interestingly, Heather and I had discussed working on a novel all based on the Great Fog. Several years earlier. Yeah. And that idea didn't stick. So again, that's another example of
it came to me.
Yeah. We gave it to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. But yeah, it was just, again, another layer, another, you know, lots of metaphor, the sort of the obfuscation
Being lost.
and the revealing of a new queen. And, you know, Jack is dealing with a new episode in his life. So it was a perfect, you know, that pea super classic it's Christmas, it's London drama. It was just perfect on lots of levels, but fascinating that fog story wouldn't let us go. Yeah.
And I think what most people don't know, I mean, is that smog killed more people than any other natural disaster in England.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just a bad fog. It was a literal poisonous
toxic
smog.
disaster.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people saw it for the first time. Maybe there was that amazing episode in The Crown where Churchill featured heavily in the first series of The Crown, where the fog was depicted and how toxic it was and how desperate and you know, the political things going on behind it. So yeah, really interesting additional piece of history at that time.
I'm glad you included it. Yeah.
So
I can't wait to read your book. Well, I couldn't wait to read now.
Well, first I have to say, Suzanne Burnham says that she wants more collaborations in the future. So just a little.
Hazel, let's get cracking.
Yeah, I mean, I know this just came out, but come on.
You can start that at 1 this morning, Hazel.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm not tired.
Exactly. And I really like this, and I'm not 100% sure if you can even answer this, but Leah Bledsoe Ramel, is it Ramel? Yeah, said, what made you decide to start the novel on a tragic note? I thought it was a great dose of realism because Christmas is not always perfect.
That's exactly why. So I have to say, Hazel and I love a bittersweet aspect to our books. I think it really adds a little depth, and it's real life, isn't it? And it makes that happy, lighter aspect it feel more profound somehow. So, you know, that juxtaposition of joy and pain, I suppose. And maybe that's me talking mostly, Hazel, but I think it's both of us. And so the other thing is, we thought a lot about how Christmas is joyous and it's a wonderful time of year, but it's also a really painful time of year for some people. You know, if they've lost loved ones and they're feeling that loss very acutely. And so the fog, this, you know, time that we really wanted to come back to, even though we didn't decide to do a whole book about it, was sort of the perfect moment to introduce that in the beginning. And of course, Elizabeth had just stepped into this role. I mean, she hadn't even been crowned yet officially. She was still Princess Elizabeth. So it was kind of a great entry point for us. And, you know, again, to honor the loss and then, you know, move forward from there and make it a happy ending. Spoiler alert. So
that's great. So another live question coming in is from Kathy Brewer Johnson. She says, when researching the book, did you learn anything unexpected or surprising about the royal family?
I think for me it was probably, like I already mentioned, the number of, I guess we had an opinion of the Queen from the woman we grew up with, and you know, to me she was always a, you know, that white haired, she became that white haired you know, elder stateswoman, and therefore you don't really connect that person with this beautiful young woman, very interested in her fashion, you know, and sort of having to make sacrifices. You'd think, well, if you're going to sacrifice something to be the Queen, that can't ever be a bad thing to sacrifice. But there were lots of things that she had to let go of. And I think that surprised me, sort of digging into her as a young woman, and how her and Philip had hoped to go and, you know, live in Malta when he left the Royal Navy, how she loved her family life with her mother and father in Piccadilly in London, and how close they were. I think that surprised me. I always had this idea that the royal family were all very sort of distant and just tolerated each other for royal occasions. But this real warmth that came out with her her mother and father and her sister Margaret. So that really did, surprise me. I wasn't as aware of that, I don't think.
I love that.
And I think for me, the things Philip would say, he was feisty and very funny, but also sometimes offensive, especially for today's sensibilities. And I found that shocking. Hazel, remember that day? And I was like, oh my God, look at all these things Prince Philip said. And I sent her all these links.
Yeah, I was like, I know.
She's like, I know. We all talk about that. And it's definitely, it's something that's known, but I did not know. And so I didn't
either. That's interesting.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. He was incredible. He was a brilliant guy, and he was actually very funny, but again, does not have modern sensibilities in lots of ways, and can be offensive. So that was shocking for me. And also that the corgis, Elizabeth's corgis, have their own chef.
Oh, yes.
That surprised me too.
I didn't know that.
I know that from Eliza Knight's book from last year.
Yeah. So that was a surprise.
That's awesome.
Salt would really like to have his own chef. We should look into that.
It's a great idea.
Yes. Our English setters have their own chef. His name is Tom. We've got a live question from Susan Gowd. She wants to know, ladies, how did you meet each other in the first place?
Well, we have the same agent. So our love story started online. So we both
lonelywriters.org.
That's it. It's a great place. So we both had debut novels coming out, and our agent Michelle connected us just as a support network, really, initially. And then, Heather had a crazy idea to get 9 writers to write an anthology, Fall of Poppies. I was one of those. We then had loads of research for the First World War. We thought about writing again, but I hadn't actually met Heather in person until we, was it the Fall of Poppies tour? Mm-hmm. And we had already started thinking about writing Last Christmas in Paris. So we sort of this trust that I talked about, I think, and again, you 4 ladies will know this, when you meet your people, you meet your people.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter where they are in the world, or how you come to know each other. We just always hit it off. And it was just such a relief that transferred to real life.
Yeah.
So we have our agent Michelle to thank for this beautiful partnership.
I love that. That's incredible. Well, Hazel and Heather, we have a zillion more live questions for y'all, and I skipped like 6 of our own in the script, so we could really honestly have y'all here all night. But
no.
but Hazel has to go to bed, so if you'll stick around for like one more second, we have just a tiny little more thing we want to talk to you about. But first, just a quick reminder for our listeners and viewers out there.
Okay, for everyone watching and listening, we really encourage you to rush out and buy your copies of Christmas with the Queen. And the perfect place to do that is the Friends and Fiction shop on bookshop.org. You'll get it at a discount. You'll help to fund the show. You'll support our guests and our beloved independent booksellers nationwide.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and join our Facebook group, which is more than 250,000 strong. When you visit friendsandfiction.com, you can find links to our socials, stay up to date about everything we have going on. And hopefully you must sign up for Friends and Fiction Endless Stories on Substack.
That's right. Well, everybody, we have one last question for our guests, but don't go anywhere because we're going to tell them good night. And then we are going to reveal our winter guest lineup for January to March. But so first, Hazel and Heather, before we let you go, what are your holiday plans?
Hazel?
Do you want to go? We are having holidays at home. We have had a crazy, crazy, crazy busy year. And we are just very excited. My eldest just started college this year, so he's coming home from college tomorrow. So we're going to just have a really cozy, lovely family Christmas, lots of games, lots of walks, just quiet time at home. And I can't wait. Yeah.
Oh, I love those days. Like you miss them, and then, oh, so fun.
We're going to lock the door.
Keep them in there. We're actually, so I live in Connecticut, but my parents live in Raleigh, North Carolina. So we usually make that harrowing drive down the 95 corridor.
Terrible drive.
But for the first time, we're flying because I just can't this year. So we're going to fly.
I wish you were coming tomorrow. I'm doing a book signing at RDU tomorrow.
Wow.
I would 100% cut. That's hilarious. Oh, I'm just going to miss you. I like a day. Yeah, and same as Hazel, the laid back. My parents have a hot tub, which is lovely, so we'll be in the hot tub and playing games and stuff. So
that's awesome.
Good to go.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's amazing. All right, my friends. Well, thank you so much for being here tonight to talk to us about this beautiful new book and writing together and your collaborative process. It was so interesting, and we're just so excited for everyone who hasn't read this beautiful book yet to read it. So happy holidays to you both, and thank you for being with us tonight.
You guys are awesome.
Thank
you so
Happy
much.
holidays, everybody.
Night,
Get some sleep, Hazel.
Nice.
Oh, they're so awesome.
They're the best. All right.
I'm supposed to say, don't forget, next week, all of us will be with Ron and Meg for our special Friends in Fiction Office Christmas Party episode. We'll be playing all kinds of reindeer games, including bookish holiday trivia and Name That Christmas Tune. You'll never guess who won. That show will air on the Friends in Fiction Facebook page and YouTube channel on Wednesday, December 25th at 7 p.m. Eastern. So you'll be in a food coma. You can just turn us on and watch us. And it'll be published to our podcast for your listening pleasure on Friday, December 27th.
Okay, so I keep trying to think about what that episode's going to actually sound like on a podcast. I'm highly encouraging all of you
Watch the video.
to just watch it. I don't even know what that will be on a podcast version of us singing. Anyway, we know you might be wondering what happens after that. So this season ends this week, but our winter 2025 season kicks off right away on New Year's Day. We didn't even take New Year's Day off for you. So we've got an incredible for Christmas. So it is an incredible lineup of January through March. Are you ready?
All right. I know that's small for a lot of you to see, but I think we've got them in smaller graphics too. It is an amazing schedule. So we open the new season with our dear friend Fiona Davis to talk about her new novel, The Stolen Queen, and that's on New Year's Day. Up next is sports reporter turned novelist Kate Fagan to discuss her novel, The 3 Lives of Kate Kay. Then our January pick of the month is filmmaker and journalist Tara Darabji, whose debut novel, Call Her Freedom, won Simon & Schuster's Books Like Us first novel contest, a competition for underrepresented writers to win a book deal. And I have read it, and it is fabulous, and it's going to be such a great conversation. The month finishes off rounds out with Scott Turow of Presumed Innocent fame to discuss his decades in the making follow-up Presumed Guilty, and Lisa Genova, the best-selling author of Still Alice, with her latest More or Less Maddie.
Oh my gosh, 5 weeks in January, y'all. That's a big one.
Good stuff.
Well, that's good. We'll have a lot of time to get our New Year's resolutions underway.
Exactly.
So February is going to be loads of fun too. We start the month with Victoria Christopher Murray to chat about her new novel, Harlem Rhapsody. Then we'll welcome Christina Clancy with her Palm Springs set, The Snowbirds. Y'all, it's one of my favorite covers going right now. I just have to tell
It's
you.
really good.
I can't wait to read it. Our February live show guest will be Pam Jenoff with our pick of the month, her gorgeous new novel, Last Twilight in Paris. We close the month with the #1 New York Times bestselling author C.J. Boggs to discuss the latest installment in his wildly successful Joe Pickett series, Battle Mountain.
And last but not least, March comes in like a lion with our good buddy, Colleen Oakley, to discuss her delightful new rom-com, Jane and Dan at the End of the World.
So good.
Now, can you all guess who our pick of the month is going to be for March?
Ooh, I know.
Oh, yeah. It's our own PCH, Peach, we call her. We will have a live show complete with our usual merriment to celebrate the story she left behind just before Patti leaves us behind and goes out for a month on the road for her book tour. Then, once we got Patti out of the way, we'll welcome Emma Donahue of The Room fame to delve into her new book, The Paris Express. Then we close out our winter season with Amelia Hart, who had a big hit with last year's Wayward, to chat about her new book, The Sirens.
We really are in for an amazing season. We have so much to look forward to. So meanwhile, we want to wish everyone out there a very Merry Christmas and a Happy Hanukkah. And we hope that you enjoy next week's Friends in Fiction holiday special. We call it our office party, but oh goodness, it's a good one. So thanks so much to all of you out there for being here with us every week. We always have such a good time seeing you, and we'll see you next time. So goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Merry
everyone.
Christmas.
Thank you for tuning in. You can join us every week on Facebook or YouTube, where our live show airs on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram. We're so glad you're here.